Welcome back, guys, to another video. Today I am filming this out in beautiful Alicante. As you can see the beautiful sunset behind me. But today's video, I'm going to be walking you guys through some of my favorite books, my top 3 books that I've ever read. And guys, I know the first thing when you hear that, you're thinking, bro, here was another nerd.
Did you just call me a nerd?
All these guys who do business online, these guys are all nerds. But let me tell you one thing, guys. I hated reading, and I'm still not a massive fan of reading, right? So I was the kid where my mom still had to force me to read books, and if she made me do like an hour reading on the weekend or something, like I would sit there angry at the book because I wasn't able to join the lobby and play FIFA with the guys or play pro clubs. That was me. I wanted to be outside. I like to play sports. I wasn't a reader. You know, I didn't really enjoy books. However, when I got into this game of business, I think everybody goes through this experience where you read one book. You read a book, just randomly somebody recommends you, you're in a period of your life, you read something, you get to the end of it, and you have a shift in mentality or your outlook on life. And then you realize how influential one book can be. Then you get addicted to that feeling. So if I can shift between page 0 and 300 and become a new person, can you imagine if I do that over many, many books? And that's where I got into my love of reading and acquiring knowledge. And I just like to acquire knowledge. It's not that reading is what I like. I just like knowledge. You know, I like to get new knowledge, guys. And even a lot of times I just listen to audiobooks. I do Audible. I put my headphones in. I go for walks. I put my headphones in when I'm like cleaning up, doing anything like that while I'm in the gym. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I don't really read that often. Sometimes I don't really enjoy that as much as I like to listen. So find what works for you. If you like to listen to them. However, these 3 books that I'm going to talk about today, these 3 books for me were so influential. Like, and there's always going to be those 2, 3, 4 books that like are going to be the basis of everything that you do. Like, I'll always come back to these books and I'll always read these books again. And I guarantee that if you guys read these 3 books, you will be a completely different person. You'll be completely aligned with where you need to be. And it's one of those things where like when people come to me and ask me for advice, and when they have, I'll be like, go read this book. And it's part of these 3 books, and I'll tell them to go read it. And each person that has ever read this has changed their lives drastically. So I'm very, very excited to share these books with you and share with you what I've learned from these books myself and why these books are influential to me. So the first book that I want to talk about is one of the first like actual books that I read. I remember I was in the gym, I was listening to this in audiobook back in like 2022, instead of like mid 2022, when I had just been out of college and I wasn't really sure what to do. Somebody recommended me to read Think and Grow Rich. I had heard this on YouTube videos from multiple guys. Think and Grow Rich, Think and Grow. I was like, what the hell is this Think and Grow Rich? So I read this book, and after I read this book, no less than 45 days later, I made my first 10,000 euro in a month. Like that. This is one of those books for me that will always stay core because it changed my life. It changed a lot of things. Now, why do I like Think and Grow Rich? Because it gives you the principles for success. So usually you're like, hey, I want to make money or I want to do something successful. Where do I start? This book, if you follow it, it's a practical book. It's not just knowledge, it's practical. It tells you things to do, what to do, and it gives you a structure for success. And it's like, if you just follow this structure A to Z, you will be successful, right? Some of the principles that this book talks about is principles like a burning desire. Having a burning desire for what you want to do. It talks about things about the subconscious mind, right? The general part of Think and Grow Rich is talking about the subconscious mind and how your mind, what you think, feel, and do leads exactly to what you have. But it conceptualizes it in a way where it takes examples of some of the wealthiest and richest people in America's history and in world history and takes points from their lives and then shows you how the principle applies from it. So it's not just, hey, I think this thing and it's true. It's like, here's a list of the most successful men in the world at the time when it was written, and here's all the principles that they're following. Another one of the really great principles I learned from this book was the concept of like infinite intelligence. So kind of understanding that like you can have access to all the knowledge that you ever need to know if you can just really focus, be calm, and listen, right? We always have this feeling that we need to go and acquire knowledge, but I'm a big believer that we already have a lot of knowledge, right? We can. It's just at what level can we open our minds to be able to receive this information and knowledge? And this is where moments of genius intuition come into play. And this book really explains how to really master that moment of genius, how to master intuition, and how to become somebody that almost seems like, I don't even know why this guy's successful. Like, there's not really any leading indicators, because it all comes from the mind and the mind only. So Think and Grow Rich, guys, would be one of the first books I would recommend. It's super practical. I remember I learned about auto-suggestion as well. So I used to wake up every day and write down on my piece of paper, my name is Joshua Ajayi, I do this, I make X amount per month, and here's how I do it, or here's why I do it. And I did that every single day, because if you auto-suggest this to yourself, you're continuing to tell yourself, continuing to remind yourself, you're continuing to become aligned with where you want to go. I remember writing that every single day, and I still have it till this day. I still have the notes where I wrote all of those things down on a piece of paper, and everything I wrote down has materialized itself and even further. So this is one of my favorite book, guys. Take it with care and enjoy the read. Now, the second book that is on the list is the first book that kind of goes into the whole psychology, sales, marketing world that you guys may know that I'm involved in, right? So Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. Till this day, guys, I've not read many sales books. This is like one of the only like sales books I've actually read. The reason why is because it encapsulates everything in a perfect way, right? So what I mean by that is that sometimes you can read sales books and they have really specific techniques, and they teach you techniques and phrases and tones and things to do, and it's very practical, but like, you want to be able to be adaptable. Like, do you understand why sales works? Do you understand the psychology? Because if you understand the psychology, you can make 20 sentences around the same psychology, right? Do you know what I mean? Or you could make 20 different marketing phrases or catch lines or headlines, and it's not about the actual headline itself, it's the psychology behind it. So by taking the behind approach, we become the implementer of psychology in sales, and we become our own persuasionists. Like, we can use this stuff to persuade people in whatever ways we want to do, whether that's sales or marketing, etc. Some of the principles that this book talks about, bro, when you read this book, you're going to see these principles everywhere. When you're buying things, when you're shopping, watching advertisements, listening to anything, people are using this all the time. Some of the common things it talks about is things like scarcity. It talks about things like creating commitment. So when you make someone make a small commitment for something for free, they're most likely to be consistent and make a bigger commitment. One of my biggest and favorite ones on this list is this word I always get wrong.
In the beginning.
Reciprocity, right? So the rule of reciprocity, right? I hope the editor edited that out, or maybe he's just giving you a reel of me saying that. I don't know, but reciprocity, right? So the rule of reciprocity means that when you do something for someone, they kind of feel like they have to do something back for you. And no, I'm not saying using this in sort of like a dark psychology way. I'm talking about in like sales and anything. Like, if you make a favor for someone, do something for them, give them like maybe a slight discount, maybe like make a little bit of a middle ground for them, they're much likely to want to go ahead and complete that deal, or want to go ahead and actually say, do you know what? You did something for me, you made something a little bit easier, and because of that, I'm going to go ahead and make a decision to go ahead and move forward. This book is influential for anybody that wants to get into anything to do with, honestly, business, because business is going to be sales, marketing, and persuasion. Even if you're not trying to get into sales, guys, you need to understand persuasion and use these principles in everything you do. Even if you work in a restaurant, be able to use this so that you can be able to get yourself a higher pay, or that maybe somebody on the table gives you a better review or gives you some extra tips. It doesn't even matter what you're doing. It's just that these rules of psychology, it's either you learn how to use them or they get used against you your whole life, right? And that is why I love this book from Robert Cialdini, because it breaks down the core principles to a T, and it makes it accessible for anybody that wants to know about this stuff. The next book that I'm going to talk about, guys, is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. We've had a book that talks about kind of like thinking and principles for success and how that works. We've had a book that talks about sales and marketing. And now this book, for me, talks a lot about the person you need to become and the core kind of understanding about life. Because we talk about success, we talk about sales, we talk about marketing, but life is the constant through all of that, right? Life is its own battle. And what Meditations is Meditations is actually a diary of Marcus Aurelius, who was a great Roman Empire during a time where the Romans had pretty much probably their happiest and greatest period of all time. And there's this guy, and he used to have a diary, and he never meant for this book to be published, is so what they say. And they published this book, and it was kind of like an accumulation of all his thoughts and feelings. And one of the biggest things behind this is that this book talks about the Stoic philosophy. And if you're not familiar with the Stoic philosophy or Stoicism, have a look into it. But what Stoicism essentially really is, it's just being able to take control over yourself, your mind, your feelings, and not let outside experiences and things take over you. A lot of us get overwhelmed by things that we cannot control. We get overwhelmed by things that people say to us. We get over emotional. A Stoic person, right, has the understanding and the ability, and they almost seem kind of like cold-hearted because they're just so firm. They're not negative, they're not positive. It's just in the middle, it's just maybe. Everything is middle grounded. And when you can be middle grounded, you're not gonna get too high on the highs and you'll never get too lows on the lows. So life can't throw you around like it is. And this is why I love the Stoic philosophy, because if you're embarking on any sort of journey in life, just in general, it doesn't have to be business, guys, right? Whether it's sports, you know, a corporate career, research, you're gonna have to be able to take some of the qualities that this book talks about. So when it talks about things, it kind of like explains like how you can be like rational, like the importance of rationality and will. It talks a little bit as well about like the importance of just kind of letting other people have their own views and opinions, right? It talks about the importance of not having a desire for fame and riches. This was a man who was arguably one of the most wealthiest and powerful men in the world, but yet in his book, when you read it, he was one of the most humble, and he did not desire any fame or wealth or power. He really was just as a service to his people, right? And I really love that philosophy that he gives into the book, because nowadays we see a lot of people who do everything just for fame, for desire, and it destroys people. It always does. So pick up Meditations, guys. This book is so short, by the way. If you see the book, half of it is like kind of just like explaining the diary. It's a very short book, just with a couple of kind of like quotes and powerful points there. You can get through this book, you know, in a week, 2 weeks. I would advise take a time, read a quote or two, and kind of think about it for a while. But definitely when you read this book and you finish it, the person you become, especially as a man in the world today, you will align a lot of things, and you will become a version of yourself that you always knew deep down that you had, but you weren't sure how to actually express that into the world today. And that's why I love Meditations. So guys, that is my 3 book recommendations for you guys. Number 1, Think and Grow Rich. Number 2, Influence Psychology of Persuasion. And number 3, Meditations. Now I do want to go through 2 honorable mentions, because I did want to talk about these ones too, but I couldn't fit them into this video. The first one is going to be called Psycho-Cybernetics. If you guys want to know anything about your mind, how you can change your character, so you probably have things that you talk about yourself, like I am this, I am that, I am shy, I am not good at this, I can't do this. This book is like an absolute brain dump and an absolute like kind of like life twister, and it shows you how you can take control over your personality, identity, and change this. And it almost becomes like a movie, like you're just kind of like a movie character, and you just pick whatever character that you want to be in this movie. This is an amazing book for any of you guys that struggle with like confidence, believing in yourself. You know, maybe you have personality traits that you really know you dislike, you want to be able to change them. This book will give you the tools to change them. And once you finish this book, I've heard so many people say that it's changed their lives. When I read this, it changed my life too. The last one as well that I want to talk about is Pitch Anything. As I said, I don't have many sales books that I like to talk about, but when it comes to sales, I'm very particular with them. So Pitch Anything, I think it's by Olin Kapp, is a great book that talks about frame in sales. This is a guy who was done deals with some of the biggest venture capitalist companies in the world, finance companies in the world, some of the biggest families and institutions ever. He's gone and pitched deals and closed deals, and he talks about the thought of authority and frame, how you hold yourself in these places, how you control conversations, how you let people know who you are. It's really a fundamental when it comes to anything in life to do with negotiation, right? If you want to be somebody that's in sales, if you want to be somebody that's doing stuff with negotiation, this is a book that I will recommend to any salesperson. Again, it's a super easy and short read, but the fundamentals in it is more important than the tips and techniques that you see in other videos now today. Guys, I hope this video was helpful for you guys. As I said, I'm not a massive book reader either, but I think you understand the importance of reading. And sometimes books can have such a big change in your life that 1 or 2 of these things in the list might be the only 2 books that you need for the next 2 years, but they could 10x, 100x where you are from now on. So I hope you like this video. Leave a comment down below on whether you like this video and what books were your favorite. And also please do subscribe. I do have videos coming out all the time, so subscribe. Build the belief there. I love to see people commenting on this stuff and subscribing, and it makes me more motivated to make more and more and more of these videos. You know, I only want to make things that you guys want to see, and if you guys are enjoying it, I'm going to make more. So give this a thumbs up, subscribe, show the love, share this with your friend, put this into a group chat or WhatsApp, whatever it is, spread the word, and maybe we can change your life together. See you guys.